Joining me tonight to review the speech and to discuss its contents and indeed this whole evening, again, Fred Barnes, executive editor of the Weekly Standard, Nina Easton, Washington bureau chief of Fortune magazine, Bill Kristol, editor of the Weekly Standard, and Juan Williams, of course, senior correspondent of National Public Radio, Fox News contributors all. Well, Juan, this is quite a night, the 45th anniversary of Dr. King's famous speech as we sit here tonight. Your thoughts?
Well, it's history, and I think what you said, Britt, about the spectacle is what dominates me at this moment. Last night was more emotion. I think you would have seen more tears in the crowd. We didn't see that much tonight. There were a few people who had that moment, but what we heard from Barack Obama, I think, was more prose than poetry. If you think back to the speech that he modeled this on, that came from JFK back in 1960 when he accepted the nomination outdoors in L.A., you remember the whole notion of new frontiers for Americans.
Right.
I don't think there was any catchphrase in this speech that will match that, nothing that will be repeated in that way. He said, and again here I'm picking up on what you talked about, Britt, he talked about this is a moment that's not about him, but about the people of America. And there's a certain magic to it, to the fact that he's here. And then he said this is not a time to turn back. And again, maybe that could be a phrase that people will remember. But as I say, this was not a motivational, inspirational speech. At times it looked more like a laundry list. And in that sense, felt a little bit not quite satisfying. Now you say, you know, there were high expectations for this speech, but I think that's right. The expectations were there, but rather than try to appeal to the memory of Dr. King, he barely mentioned Dr. King, saved it for the end. I don't think that he really played to the emotion in the crowd. The emotion came from the fact of the history of what has been accomplished. It came from the spectacle, and I think that's what people will remember from this moment rather than his words, because if you look at what he had to offer in terms of specific proposals, there really was not much new. And if you go down through the proposals, things about, you know, oh, in 10 years we're going to be free of dependence on foreign oil. Well, he won't be in office in 10 years. I don't know what to believe there or not. When he spoke about, you know, trying to retool the auto industry, people have been trying, and of course we've been struggling. So the specifics didn't match up, and I think, you know, you have to ask people, can you now imagine after this speech Barack Obama, this young African-American, 46 years old, freshman senator, as your president? People will say, gosh, there's magic to him.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he did the closing sale tonight.
Bill Kristol, your thoughts?
Barack Obama faced very high expectations tonight, and honestly, I think he met them, and I honestly think he exceeded them. It was a very well-crafted speech around the theme of America's promise. He avoided the mistake liberals sometimes make of seeming to have disdain for America in any way, I thought. He eloquently explained America's promise. He explained why the Bush-Cheney administration had fallen short of that, and then explained how, allegedly, his administration would lead us back towards that. I thought it was an awfully impressive performance.
Did you hear anything in the programs outlined, the policy ideas touched upon, if not fully elaborated tonight, that would expand Barack Obama's appeal beyond the normal liberal and traditional Democratic vote that he would be expected to get? I mean, we can look back to Bill Clinton, for example, of a president who tried to do that, who had, amid all the liberal things that he outlined, he also had ideas that were in a sense new ideas designed to reach a broader constituency. Did you hear that in this speech?
Well, it wasn't a new Democrat speech. It wasn't full of new ideas, but he did emphasize that he wanted to cut taxes. He repeated that, I think, twice. For 95% of all Americans, it's going to be hard to run against him, I think, or harder than perhaps some Republicans have thought as a tax hiker. And I thought, frankly, his direct assault on John McCain's campaign slogan was effective when he said, I've got news for you, John McCain, we all put our country first. Suddenly that is McCain's slogan, country first, and by directly confronting it, Obama is now challenging McCain to say, well, are you really saying that not just that you disagree with me, but that I, Barack Obama, and those who were with me here don't put the country first? I think that's a tough challenge for McCain.
Nina?
Well, I think starting with the film, which keep in mind is the visual, and that's what people take away from it. I thought the film was very effective. It was this average American family, which, by the way, happens to be biracial, and I thought that's a good takeaway. The speech, I completely disagree with Bill Kristol. I think it was, I thought it was a lost opportunity. I thought the first half of it, I was looking at the first half when he talked about the economy. I'm thinking, how many times have I heard this same speech from liberal Democrats over 20 years, not just at this convention? Then he switches gear and he dismisses McCain, and he does his theme of unity, where the soldiers out in the field aren't just fighting for red America or blue America, they're fighting for the United States of America. And you know what, Britt? They staged this here. The campaign said they staged it in this big stadium, in part because Colorado's a swing state. They wanted to fill it up with voters who would go home and tell other voters about it. And I looked out here during the first half of the speech. It riled the delegates. They loved it, but the applause didn't carry up. The second half of the speech, when he went back to those same themes that started his campaign about unity and leaving the old politics of the past aside, then you really saw at the upper decks, you saw people getting excited.
Brett Barnes.
Well, amazing theatrics. I kind of loved them.
I did too. It's fun to watch. It was a great show. I'm glad I was here for it.
This is a speech that literally set off fireworks.
But there's no question there's a lot of excitement for 85,000 Democrats here in Denver, Colorado, and probably across the nation. But we are only 13 hours away from another very important event. That event is, of course, who is Senator John McCain going to pick for his running mate? So the excitement is growing across the nation in politics tonight. It is never dull. And who best to go to ask questions but Frank Luntz, who was there listening to the speech by Senator Obama tonight among the 85,000 people in that mile-high stadium. And I should tell you that Frank is the author of the book, Words That Work. But here's the big question. Are they words that stick, Frank?
Yes, I think they are. Indignant independents are the key voting bloc in this election cycle. They represent about 10, maybe 12%. And they've been upset that Barack Obama hasn't been specific, and they've been frustrated that John McCain seems too much like George Bush. Let me tell you, the statements that Obama made tonight are crystal clear. They're crisp. They brought the audience to their feet. In fact, what was fascinating, and I've been to 8 conventions, is I've never seen a convention where there were more people standing throughout the entire speech, that they did not want to sit down because they felt this was so historic, so special, camera phones going off everywhere. And there's certain specific words that stand out to me. One word in particular, enough. When he delivered that statement, he delivered with power and passion. We've had enough. And there's a segment of America that's really fed up, and they will have appreciated language like that.
You know, Frank, when you listen to the speech, it is a dazzling speech, and you hear some specifics which many people have been asking or crying for, telling that it has to be specific. But here's the big issue. Can he deliver? And is there anything in the speech, any words that he used, that is any way promising to the voters out there that all his great ideas for America, all his inspiration and his hope could actually be translated into product? Because that's his big problem. He doesn't have a long track record of getting product in these areas. That's what he's got to prove to the American people.